constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss Constituency Vibes.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Constituency Vibes. Of course, it is a joy and a pleasure to be with you on a Wednesday night where we discuss constituency vibes to inform you and alert you, sensitize you, and give you the correct information as to what is taking place at the constituency level. And today we have a very interesting programs, and first of all, let me apologize for the late start. We are just in a few technical matters here, and so we are ready to be with you tonight. As always, we have our house cleaning rules for Constituency Vibes, so as to make sure that you can participate in a manner that is where you can express your views without much difficulty. So, thou shalt not use language that is inflammatory, insulting, offensive, or slanderous to the host, guests, public officials, or persons in general. We want to keep the show clean, keep the content okay and safe. Thou shalt not listen to thyself on the radio, as it may cause feedback. Thou shalt turn your radio down. You will be able to hear the host through your phone, so please turn your radio down. Thou shalt practice good etiquette when expressing your viewpoint. Thou shalt choose to identify the area that thou art calling from. Thou shalt respect the views of other callers without making insults or abuses with reference to previous callers, even though you may disagree with the caller's point of view. And thou shalt be gentle and civil at all times. Listeners, viewers, welcome to Constituency Vibes. This is the program that focuses on government's holistic approach to sustainable development in a people-centric way to deliver progress and growth to our people, constituency by constituency. Your government, headed by Honorable Prime Minister Alan Shasti and his team of dedicated men and women of passionate intensity, love, and care, steadfast in the vision, commitment, and the relentless pursuits to usher in a new and progressively different and forward-moving St. Lucia. My guest this evening is the Honorable Leonard Spider Montoute, a Member of Parliament for Grosley and Minister of Equity, Equity, Social Justice, Local Government, and Empowerment. We are in a time of a COVID crisis, and so leadership, particularly in this time, must focus on seeing the possibilities in a situation while others are seeing the limitations. A quote here from John Maxwell, a leadership expert. And of course, this is precisely what the government is doing. We are seeing the possibilities in a situation where others are perhaps a little more myopic, and all they see are the limitations and focusing on the negative and the doom and gloom. In every crisis, there is opportunity, you hear the experts say. The rapid and unprecedented spread of COVID-19 has quickly eclipsed other epidemics, both in size and scope. The experts are telling us that this pandemic, the health crisis, coupled with the economic crisis, has eclipsed other epidemics in both in size and scope. In addition to the deadly human toll and disruption to millions of lives, the economic damage is significant and far-reaching. It is appropriate to use the phrase, the experts are saying now, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This is the situation that we are facing throughout the globe. And these small islands like ours small island developing states because since we are not immune to the kind of effects. As a matter of fact, economists say that when the bigger economic powers, the economic crumbs really fall to developing countries, and particularly in times like that, you have major challenges in that direction. The current situation poses an enormous challenge for leaders across the world. The uncertainty embedded in the situation makes the leadership challenge even more complex. So today, leaders face innumerable leadership dilemmas and conflicting demands. And most of these do not have a simple twofold answers. It is an evolving situation that takes place all the time. And so the innovation, the creativity, the ingenuity, definitely of our leaders, and clearly, as you can see by this government, is clearly visible for you to see throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. In short, leadership demands are unprecedented in nature. So let us examine the 5 pillars of leadership that the government is employing in the fundamental principles to really test what is considered to be resilient leadership. And so the government is designing from the heart and from the head. The heart to touch lives, to be sensitive to the situation, and of course the head to be visionary, to be pragmatic. So it seeks to reinforce solutions that align with the purpose of societal obligations and serve at the heart of all organizations throughout government and government statutory corporations and agencies. Putting the mission first. The mission is stability and economic resilience that this government is articulating. Stabilize today and harness the energy and constraints of volatile conditions to spark innovation tomorrow. How are we turning the crisis into an opportunity to emerge stronger? That's the question, and that's the approach. Aim for speed over elegance. Decisive action is what the experts are saying, with courage is essential in empowering teams, leaders, communities to act courageously in a volatile environment. Own the narrative. Let the narrative be positive and forward thinking. This is what the government is saying. Not doom and gloom. Let us know that we are resilient, we are strong as a people, we have pride and we have dignity, and so together we can forge forwards, looking beyond the horizon for a better day, because we know within us we have that capacity and that ability. So we have to paint a picture of a compelling future and a path forward that all can support and rally around. Okay? How are you proactively filling the information vacuum to combat the spread of misinformation and rumors? How are we doing this? Of course, we are very active at Sky FM, bringing you the information, bringing you the truth, debunking all the propaganda and the untruths that you hear from various quarters. Embracing the long-term view. So this is what the government is in, that kind of foresight and vision, to stay focused on the horizon, to instill confidence and steadiness across the spectrum, across the economic situation, the social and economic situation. And so, my guest, the Honorable Spider Motut, Member for Parliament for Grosley, welcome to Constituency Vibe, Minister.
Thank you, Ricky, and let me say a special good evening to your audience and your viewers. And it is certainly a pleasure to be on your program once again.
Okay. Now, Minister, Martin Luther King tells us the time is always right to do the right thing. In Grosley, you are going on the right path, doing the right things, you are doing great things, and you're doing measly things. So tell us about these exciting things that are happening in your constituency, and of course, you can, of course, as Minister of Social Equity, tell us some of the programs and policies as well that impact them.
Well, I'll probably start at the national level as Minister of Equity, Social Justice, Local Government and Empowerment. And the reason for doing so is because, I want to give a global picture of what the government, the current government is doing on a social level, because there is a lot of propaganda out there trying to, give the notion that, pushing the notion that we do not care and we have not reached out and to see about the needs of the poor, the vulnerable, and the disadvantaged. And there's nothing further than the truth. Of course, talk is cheap. It costs nothing to spread rumors and propaganda. But at the end of the day, the facts are there to be seen, and the truth has to be revealed. And so I'm here to tell you what the actual reality is on the ground as far as our social responses are concerned. Of course, we know that the government had to, from the onset, respond to the health crisis in itself. Of course, setting up the Victoria Hospital to become a respiratory hospital, doing things like setting up the respiratory center at the Grosile Polyclinic, setting up the quarantine centers, and all of those things. Now, currently procuring the vaccines for St. Lucians and so on, and all of the things that was involved in the response to the health situation. We also are aware, like you said, it was a two-pronged crisis, health and economics, and the economic situation presented in itself quite a number of social issues for us, and so we had to respond, given the fact that not only did it compound the situation for those who are already vulnerable, but then it made some people who were not in the category of the poor and vulnerable. We had the new poor and vulnerable, such as the people who had lost their jobs, particularly those who were in the hospitality industry and service sectors, where those businesses had to be closed down and so on. And this government had to respond to at a time when government revenue was at an all-time low. There were months, especially during the shutdown, when government revenue was below 50% of what we normally collect. I mean, just when you think about government salaries alone, is about $44 million. Over the last year or so, since COVID has begun to affect us, there's not one month when the public servants went without salary. Initially, we tried to suggest deferment of a percentage of the salaries. Of course, the unions did not cooperate. The opposition was inciting already negative reactions to it and so on. So we agreed, well, because we see we are a government who serve the people and we listen to the voice of the people. Though I think at the time we were simply asking for some fiscal space for the government to operate, given all that had been heaped upon us all of a sudden. And as you said, this is a situation that was not predictable, that was unprecedented, and we had to respond initially, immediately. And so we were asking for some fiscal space. That was not granted. But the tenacity of this government is such that we do not crumble, we do not fold up and die. We respond to the situation and we deal with the situation at hand. And so we were able to pay public servants their full salary throughout the crisis up to this day. Not 1 month did the public servants go without a salary. And at the same time, respond to the needs on the ground, health-wise, economic-wise, and socially. And so I want to talk about the social responses, particularly given the fact that I'm the minister responsible for social services. And so when you hear the opposition touting that we did not respond to the poor and vulnerable, I want to just dispel this by bringing to your attention some of the initial and continuing responses of the government of St. Lucia. For example, the child disability grant was increased. Okay, so there was both a horizontal and vertical increase. In that, we increased the amount by $100 and we increased the number of people. The Children in Foster Care program. Okay, now the child disability grant, some 312 people benefit from that program. The children in foster care, we have about 183 children, and they too received an increase of $100 for a period. People living with HIV. Now it is very important that it is a relatively small population, some 88 people. They too received an increase in their grant, and that is important given the fact that those people are on medication permanently, but to take the medication, they must be eating properly. And so we responded to their needs. There was also the income support program. Now, when I talk of the income support program, everyone thinks of the program run by the NIC, where the NIC responded by providing 3 months of a partial salary or grant to their members of about $500. People have forgotten, or some do not know, that the government of St. Lucia responded to the need of employees who were non-NIC workers, because if you are a non-NIC worker, you do not qualify for the NIC grant.
Absolutely.
And so, as you know, there are many people, especially in the hospitality industry, who do not pay NIC. And we're hoping that going forward, they will recognize the wisdom in contributing to the National Insurance Corporation Fund, so that not only do they have a retirement, but in the case of such a crisis like what we faced, you know, when if NIC responded, they would be covered. They were not, but the government responded to ensure that they too received a grant of about $500 monthly for 3 months.
That's a caring government, isn't it?
Definitely, and that is because we care. We did not simply say, well, it is not our problem, it is not our concern. We care enough to ensure that no one was left out, that everyone was catered for. And I just want to say that we spent some $7.2 million in the process of providing this assistance, and some over 4,800 individuals benefited from that program. There is the electricity assistance program as well, and some over 3,000 individuals benefited from that program, and where we provided a grant of $75 toward the light bills, the electricity bills of individuals who were classified as poor, indigent, and vulnerable. So all of these programs went to the core of responding to the needs of the less fortunate, the vulnerable, and the poor. Now, during all of this, we also had a number of direct assistance, for example, the hot meals and the food packages that were delivered. We delivered hot meals and food packages throughout the island in every constituency for a period of time as an immediate response to the crisis that was being faced. We also did so initially, and we continue to deliver hygiene and care packages. Now, why hygiene and care packages? Where does that come in? We know the nature of the pandemic that we faced. It was a virus that went around, and part of the protocols that were instituted involved hygiene to a great extent.
Critical
component. Some of the things that were being said to us that were being recommended by the health practitioners, health professionals, was that we should wash our hands quite often, sanitize as often as possible to minimize the risk of the pandemic. And so we provided care packages to individuals for the sake of proper hygiene and to minimize their risk and exposure to the virus. Now, there was also the micro enterprise assistance program. Now, here we had the SSDF assisting small businesses, some of it through the Bell Fund, as the James Belgrave Micro Enterprise Program, to help them buffer the impact of the pandemic and to survive the period where they were facing hardship because, of course, businesses were shut down, everything was slow, and people had either reduced or non-existent income. And so we saw that to survive or to get back in operation, we needed to provide assistance to micro enterprises. I'm mentioning all of those programs. Now, I don't know if you've been keeping count, but that's quite a number of social assistance programs that we provided, social safety net programs that were provided immediately as a response to the pandemic by the government. And let us not forget, we had no way of predicting the pandemic. We did not budget for it, but we found a way, okay, through innovation, forward thinking, and tenacity to respond and to deal with the needs of many of our people. I must also mention the educational assistance program that we provided through the SSDF, and of course, that is in addition to what the Ministry of Education normally provides. We had some 1,600 students benefit, where parents got an ease by way of provision of books, educational supplies, uniforms, and bursaries.
Oh, we were taking care of many sectors.
That's right. And of course, the flagship program, the Public Assistance Program. I want you to know that that program existed. But given the crisis, we know that when we face any form of crisis, that whether it is natural disasters, whether it is man-made disasters, whether it is a health crisis like we just faced, the poor and the vulnerable are always, inevitably, the hardest hit. And so we took that into consideration and responded to the needs of the people on our public assistance program. Again, we saw both vertical and horizontal expansion of that program, where we increased the amount being paid to the individuals on public assistance by $100 a month, and also we increased the number from 2,600 to 3,600. The number was increased by 1,000. And I want to also stress the fact that, talking about increasing the program, we didn't just arbitrarily handpick, select on the basis of political allegiance or affiliation. We had a World Bank approved measuring stick that we use, okay, the SLNet 3.0, that is a measurement that is used to determine on merit who deserves to be categorized as someone who deserves to be put on the public assistance program. So I'm very happy to say that we, of course, we have limited resources and unlimited demands. I cannot sit here and tell you that we were able to respond to every demand, but we were able to go a long way in responding. And I'm proud of the government of St. Lucia, and that at a time when we had such a crisis, when we were looking at staring down the barrel of reduced government revenue, the government of St. Lucia actually increased the allocation budgeted for social services. Now, as minister, I want to say I was very pleased with that. It shows that that is a government that is sensitive to the needs of people on the ground, sensitive to the needs of the poor and the vulnerable, and that that government actually cares about that population, that category of our population. And so, as we go forward, we are doing everything that we can. First and foremost, to revive, after we've dealt with the health situation get back to some level of normalcy, to revive our economy, to ensure that we can get as many people as possible out of the bracket of vulnerable or poor, and that they're no longer dependent on the system to provide them with assistance, that they can care for themselves. And I'm sure that there are many people who would prefer to care for themselves rather than to be dependent on the system. And that will, of course, ease the burden on government and at the same time leave the government in a better position to provide more and better for those who, and let's face it, there will always be those who will be in need. There are the disabled, there are people who are aged and will not be able to care for themselves and cannot graduate out of the category. But we want this to be minimal, and as far as we are concerned, those who can, whether it's through skills training or other educational programs, opportunities, economic opportunities, whether it be through job opportunities or micro-enterprise establishment on their part, that we give them the opportunity to graduate out of that category of the dependent to independent.
Definitely the concept of not giving a person a fish, but teaching them to fish.
Very much so. So I just mentioned some of the programs that we engaged in, and I mean, at the constituency level, I can tell you, our parliamentarians did much more than I did there. I mean, I don't have the time to mention. It's during my discussion on my constituency, I'll mention to you some of what I did at my level in terms of feeding programs, in terms of hamper drives, in terms of all of those things. But let me just take this opportunity, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't do so, to thank the many agencies, corporations, and individuals who actually stepped forward, lent a hand, and augmented what government provided to stretch it a little more so that we could have provided for a few more people. And that is the spirit we want to encourage. That is the kind of spirit, because of course, like I said, we operate in a situation where we are a country with limited resources, unlimited demands, and of course, we cannot provide everything that we need. But when we work collaboratively and in a harmonious manner, government and private sector, I think a lot more can be achieved.
Absolutely. Listeners, you are on to Constituency Vibes, 93.1 FM, and of course through GDV TV, Flow 115, and Flow on GDV and Facebook as well. And of course, this is your program where we inform you on and tell you what is happening at the constituency level, give you the right information. You will see the impacts, you will see the outreach, you will see the extent to which the government is going in a holistic manner to develop the capacity of our people and, of course, to take us on a new economic trajectory so that we can, as a resilient people, we can bounce back and we can recover and return to a state of normalcy. And, of course, my guest tonight is the Honorable Spider Montut, Member of Parliament for Grosley and Minister of Equity, Social Justice. Minister,
yes. I want to turn my focus to my constituency. Of course, I was fortunate enough to be elected by the good people of the Grosley constituency in 2016 to be their representative and to be their voice in Parliament. This is a responsibility I take very seriously, that I'm very passionate about, and I'm very proud of. And that is a privilege as far as I'm concerned, to have been given the opportunity a second time to represent those people. And I made a promise from the onset that I would justify that confidence that they have placed in me by performing in a manner that will be to their satisfaction, that I would deliver on the commitments that I make. I do not even say promises, commitments that I made to them. And, well, we have not quite come to the end of the term, but to date I can say that I have delivered on at least 90% of those promises.
That's quite an achievement, Minister.
Certainly, and you see, that is why I am presenting myself once again for re-election to the people of Grosley, and that is premised on a record of performance as well as the vision that I'm presenting to them for the next 5 years, for the continued development of Grosley, for the continuation of the work that has been done, and for the caring that has been shown, especially at this time, given the crisis that we have just faced.
And as we say in Sufra and throughout the government, you see, performance matters.
Performance matters, most definitely. And so I always say to my people, there will always be those who will come and make promises. There will always be those who will tell you, I shall do this and I shall do that. My mantra to my people is, Pakite shall keneo. Because everybody shall do everything, but when the time comes, hardly anything is done by most of those who make the promises.
They cannot deliver.
They cannot deliver. In my case, I am here to show you that it was not just a promise, it was a commitment on which I delivered. And so when you compare my track record and that of my government, the United Workers' Party, to that of the opposition, you will see not only do we outperform them dramatically, but also when you look at the plans that we present, well, I cannot compare the plans because I've not heard any plans advance. And you cannot present yourself and say to people that you want a change of government. Why? Because the government must go. Well, when you ask that the government goes, what do you present as an alternative? That is what we are interested in. You cannot just base your campaign on criticisms, base your campaign on what you will do, and I expect that the electorate will want to know that they can present something better than we can. And the alternative is what is important. And if there is no alternative that is better than what obtains right now and what we are presenting for the future, then the decision is obvious, okay? Because I always say to my people of Grosley, you compare, you contrast, and then you make a choice. And if you do that, the choice is clear. The choice is the United Workers' Party, and in the case of Grosley, Leonard Spider Montut as your parliamentary representative. Now, what is it I'm talking about? When I talk about performance, you see, these are words that people use glibly. But you see, for me, these are not words. You see, it is tangible. What it is I have done, I can point to what it is that I have done. And having said so, that does not mean that all I have done is brick and mortar projects. Yes, I have done many projects, but I've had many programs as well. And for me, when I talk of development, when I talk of progress, when I talk of advancement, I'm not solely referring to that of an infrastructural nature.
It's a holistic approach.
Definitely. And for me, first and foremost, most important is that my people are keeping pace with the development. So the human capital is very important to me. The human advancement, the part of the development. It's not just economic development and that only a few benefit from the economic development and that we can point to structures and so on. I want to see tangible evidence that my people have advanced with the development. The human development is also important or very important to me. And so I want to know that I have made a dent, created an impact as far as quality of life is concerned, as far as people's situation, personal and community situation is concerned. And so not just what I have done, but what I intend to do, you will see evidence of the fact that we're taking into account that along with the development, we want to see advancement of our people. And so, yes, on the infrastructural side, by the end of this term, I would have probably done about 50 roads in the constituency of Roseland.
Quite a number of roads.
Okay, to date, we're talking about 40-something already. Now, and some will tell you because election is coming and so on. Well, I knew that election was coming from the 7th of June, 2016. And I started my work then. Because when you elect me, I hit the ground running. Because I have the experience, I have a plan. I'm not looking and fishing around for ideas. We have ideas to implement. And since I am part of a working government, we get to work immediately. And so I've been very busy throughout the term. Of course, COVID was a major interruption, but I'm not going to sit here and make COVID an excuse. COVID has not derailed us. COVID has not brought us to a halt. We have found a way, in spite of COVID, to go around the obstacles, to go over the hurdles, and to ensure that we provide to the people the commitments that we made, that we show them the results, and we perform as far as delivering is concerned.
And that's vision and foresight.
Certainly. And so when we talk about roads, from day one we started doing a number of roads, and so I have to date over 40 roads that were done. That is on the infrastructural side. Now you see, the opposition has realized that, you know, you cannot exactly beat that. There's nothing to compare in terms of my record on road development and maintenance in my constituency in the history of this country. It is unrivaled, unmatched, unsurpassed. And you will be hard-pressed to give me any example of anything that came close to that.
Mr. Sherry, for some of the areas that the roads you've touched.
Well, let me just say to you with confidence, because I can back it up, that there is not one area in my constituency that was untouched as far as road construction is concerned. Cap Estate, Kazaba, Boseju, Grosile Town, Rodney Bay, Bois d'Orange, Corinth, Marisil, Grand Riviere. And when I say Grand Riviere, I talk about Piat, I talk about Degazon, I talk about all parts of my constituency. Montsepa has not been touched, but that's a part of Grand Riviere. Okay, Asu Canal has been touched, White Rock has been touched. I'm talking about and that's the thing about it. I have a vast constituency. I have a populous constituency. And so I have to ensure that I distribute the development and the resources. 80% of those roads were in a deplorable condition or needed some upgrade. I made a commitment that I would make road improvement a priority. That I did, and the record shows that we have done a tremendous job by creating a dent. You want to see the rest of the roads improved? Look at the track record of who does it. I have done it, and I remember an elderly gentleman saying to me one time, what man has done, talking about his accomplishments, what man has done, man can do. And even if he was an elderly gentleman at the time, he was claiming that he can continue to do what he had done. I am still in the fray. I'm still offering myself as your parliamentary representative. You know I can deliver because I have delivered. And I will continue to deliver as long as you give me the opportunity to. And so road construction, I am proud of my record as far as that is concerned. But having said so, I am also proud of the fact that we have established at least 6 ICT centers. And when I talk about ICT centers, for those of you who do not know, we talk about centers where we have computers and internet access, where community members can go and utilize those computers and have access to the internet free of charge. Now,
People empowerment.
People empowerment. And the significance of that may not occur to you if you come from some urban, developed, affluent area. But I'm talking about the rural areas of my constituency, such as Labon, Deramo, Rivière-Mitan, Lafayette, Morshy, Grand Rivière. In all of those areas mentioned, ICT centers were established. And that provided a tremendous opportunity, especially for students. And Ricky, when we went to school, I mean, the use of computer was not so commonplace.
In our time.
Right, and computers have become now a tool of learning, okay, an indispensable tool of learning and communication. And so I had children not too long ago who were at the secondary school level. They came home almost on a daily basis. They needed the use of the computer to do research, to complete their homework, and so on. When it came to CXC and so on, they have their projects to do, school-based assessment and so on.
Yes.
Again, now just think of those who do not have access to those services at home. They are at a bigger disadvantage if there is no provision, no place, no center they can go to in their area. Even if they can go to Castries or go to the town of Grosley, depending on where they come from, transportation becomes a problem, safety becomes an issue, the time that they get to their home and so on. So if you care, you think of those things. You do not consider, well, okay, it's not a need for you, so it's not a problem for you. You have to think of the plight of every group, every court in your constituency, and to cater for them. So we provided them with that. That is a way of leveling the playing field and providing almost equal opportunity for all to gain an education and to advance in life. And so I'm very proud of those projects. Unfortunately, the one in Grand Rivière was burglarized, and we're still grappling with reopening it. We have procured the computers already. We're grappling with to ensuring that we get a place that is safe, that we do not have a recurrence of what happened before. But it is going to be reopened, I assure you, and there are one or two other areas in the near future where we're going to open centers. In the area of health, I promised that eventually, through an incremental approach, that the aim is to have 24-hour service at the Grosley Polyclinic. During this term, I am pleased to say that we have taken it from 8 to 4:30 to 8 to midnight. Now, I am continuously working toward 24-hour service.
That's a good improvement.
Certainly. Give me the opportunity, we'll continue the improvement. Because why, you ask why, it is a little tedious to get from Grosley to Castries, and it is far more convenient for us within the constituency to go to the polyclinic. Do not forget Castries has to serve quite a number of communities. You have a longer wait, not only in terms of getting there, but when you get there, you have a longer wait. I have always said that you do not plan illness. You do not determine or decide when you get ill. So to say that after 4:30, the people of Grosley do not need health services, that's farcical, and we know that that is not the case. We have to be realistic, we have to be practical. Yes. So that is an achievement. We have also increased the services available. Imagine, Ricky, at this point in time, given the COVID pandemic, we have made Grosley Polyclinic one of the respiratory centers, where the people of Grosley do not have to go to Victoria, okay, to contend with all the numbers there, but they have the access to the Grosley Polyclinic. These are the kinds of improvement. In Morshy, we have made, well, if I can say so, made the Morshy Wellness Center a smarter center by improving the technology there, making it more climate resilient. And you might ask, what is the relevance, what's the significance of that? Let us not forget we are in a region where we have natural disasters, almost on an annual basis, hurricanes, we have earthquakes and so on. So the building was made more resilient to those shocks. At the same time, we improved the building to make it more energy compliant by providing water storage facilities, solar and so on. That is very important because you do not want that in the midst of a disaster, that is one of your institutions that goes down. That is one of the institutions that you need to be operational at a time like that, And so we're looking at strengthening them and making them more resilient.
And added to that, a lot of these centers are also hurricane shelters.
Hurricane shelters. And we are looking at doing the same in Grand Riviere as well, where there is also a center. You know, in the area of education, it's a continuous thing. We have done much improvement to the school plans in the area. We have, well, there was some destruction done to the Grosley Early Childhood Center. That has been repaired, and we are now looking at reopening it, this time as a public facility and not as a private entity, because it was never intended to be a private entity. We have established, completed the building of a new early childhood center in Moshi. Okay? Not to mention Grand Riviere combined, Moshi combined, and the Grosley Primary School has gotten improvement almost on a yearly basis. And I have provided assistance to those areas in terms of equipment, and I have, on a yearly basis, provided all the notebooks to all the children who attend those primary schools for all the subjects.
Interesting, Minister.
In addition to that, we provide backpacks, we provide uniforms, we provide bursaries, and other educational supplies. And this is done in an equitable manner because, for example, well, we have notebooks for everybody, so we just deliver the notebooks to the school every child gets. The backpacks, we provide a number to each school, and the principal and the teachers determine who are the children who I need, and they deliver it. We have to encourage and motivate and inspire. We have awards every year where we acknowledge and we recognize and award the top achievers in my constituency for CXC, for common entrance, and so on. And also extracurricular activity. That is an annual thing. Likewise, the assistance that we provide, bursaries and so on, is annual. So education is also high on the agenda to buttress what we do in the formal education system. I'm pleased to say that the completion, by the way, when I say completion, I'm saying I completed the Grosley Human Resources Development Center. I do not have to tell you, I also am the one who started it. The previous administration did not see the need to complete it. I had to return, or in fact, the people of Grosley had to bring me back to complete it. So, just like they will bring me back to continue.
And that's quite a state of the art.
To continue the work that is being done. And it is a center that I'm very proud of, not just because it is an imposing, you know, aesthetically pleasing physical structure, but more so because of the opportunities it presents, the kind of support it provides to so many different areas, especially the creative industry, the creative arts. And so, when I talk of the creative arts, we have housed in that center the Vladimir Lucian Theater that can seat about 500 patrons, and we have a stage and all of that where people in theater arts can go to, you know, have a home to put their production on. We can have shows, we can have, you know, everything.
So when COVID is over, so Akai, so...
Oh, well, I look forward to Grosley's own Calypso tent. You know, I look forward to Grosley having its own Calypso competition. So to, you know, determine who is our Calypso monarch and so on. There's unlimited possibility because of that. Not to mention other social activities that can be held there and so on. Again, in that very center, we have a training room with at least 25 computers where training of different kind, of all kinds of areas, training can be provided there. And the fact that the computers are available, you know, there are unlimited possibilities. We have a conference room that can be broken down into 2 conference areas or 1 large conference area. That provides a number of possibilities as well. And of course, I'm pleased to say that while it is still under construction, we expect that very soon it will be completed. There is a music lab, the music studio that is being constructed as part of that center as well. There, not only will musicians have an opportunity to do their recordings, but also to learn about music engineering, music production, learning actual music, you know, and the like. So we expect to see a boost. I mean, who knows? Coming out of that very soon, we'll have a Grosley segment. When we look at everything, you know, and so these are opportunities predominantly for young people that are being provided. It is up to them to take advantage of it. And I can see already the excitement among our youth and how much they are positioning themselves to take advantage of these possibilities. So I talked about other areas to augment what we do in the formal education system. The training center there at the HRDC will provide unlimited opportunities. For example, as parliamentary representative, I sponsor a number of technical vocational training, for example, in electrical work, entrepreneurship and so on. I sponsor those programs for the young people. Now we are looking at providing training, but Ricky, there's nothing more frustrating than like when they tell you, go out, educate yourself, you come back and you cannot get a job. I train people in entrepreneurship and they come back to me and say, well, I have the idea of how to run a business now, how to manage a business now, but I don't have the resources to start a business. Well, forward thinking, visionary thinking, we are in the process now of setting up the Grosley Credit Union. And that is a community-run financial institution where they would have shares in it. They will be the shareholders, they will be the directors, they will be the ones setting policy, determining how it is going to function, what will be the interest rate, what would be, the terms and conditions to qualify for financing. I mean, as a community facility, I can imagine you having someone, based on recommendation of other community members, other members of the institution, getting a small loan to buy a little engine to put behind a boat, buy a lawnmower to start a landscaping business, things like that. And I think that will go a long way in providing easier access to financing for micro-enterprise. At the same time, the little profit that will be made, I say little when we compare it to that of the other financial institutions, and that doesn't mean it will not be in the millions. We have the population. I know the people will see the merit of it and support it, and in no time, perhaps I'm there here now tonight talking about a Grosley Credit Union. In no time, you'll be hearing about a Grosley Central Bank. That is how much I expect it to evolve and grow. But the profits, they will decide how it is utilized, whether it will be for scholarships for residents of the constituency or the members, whether it will be to invest in institutional strengthening, in projects and so on. That will be, just remember, that will be a public run, so to speak, enterprise, not controlled by government.
Indeed.
And so,
as George Odlum used to say, the possibilities are legend.
That's right. And so I'm also looking at a Grosley Development Foundation, Ricky. You all are not the only ones with vision. And I do not believe in reinventing the wheel. I see what you all are doing. I see the benefit you all have derived from a Sufra Development Foundation. And I see the possibilities for Grosley can be even greater, and it can be endless.
Yes, let me understand what you say.
Yes.
We have a Sufra Development Foundation.
Yes.
You're now doing a Grosley Foundation.
Development Foundation.
Your predecessor, who was
from
Sufra,
did not see the need for that. Her heart was never in it, and that's the problem. But she once said that when asked why she left Sufra and come to represent Grosley, she said it's because her heart is in Grosley. Now, I hope the Sufra people understand, if your heart is in Grosley, you cannot care about Sufra.
She has a heart transplant.
The caring comes from the heart. And so she left her heart behind and she came down to Sufra. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's a question of perhaps self-aggrandizement. She couldn't make it in Grosley, so she is now in Sufra. In the first place, she did not consider Sufra. So it's something for the people of Sufra to consider. But that's for another show.
Indeed.
And so I was talking of the mandate of the Grosley Development Foundation. That is for development. Now I want to say something on this. I look at post-Spider. I'm only in the business for a limited time. I will not be there forever. However, I will be Grosleyan. I will be in Grosley as long as I live. That is my roots. That is where I was born, I grew up, I have lived my life. That's why I want to live the rest of my life. I want to know that my legacy is that I have put in place, an institution that will see maximum efficacy in terms of developmental plans and so on. Politicians come with 5-year development plans. not the most efficacious way to look at development.
I remember you telling me a long time ago when we contested in 2001 that the difference between that you're not really a politician. I think you were saying that a politician thinks of the next election and a statesman thinks of the next generation.
That's right. And that's exactly it. And I'm thinking of the next generation. I have children who are, by the way, from Grosley. And so I want to know that we put in place, an institution that will guide, that will determine, that will ensure the best development for Grosley. And so you will have the best minds of Grosley, architects, social workers, lawyers, business people coming together and determining and agreeing on a plan, a development plan for the next 25 years for the next generation. And that plan will be the blueprint by which every aspiring representative or politician has to go by. So you will be coming to tell us how best you will implement that plan, rather than what we have, what obtains right now, where I come with a plan, I begin the plan. If I'm unsuccessful, you come with a different plan, diverge onto an entirely different tangent, and so we just waste resources and waste opportunities, and we talk about we being a country with limited resources that we cannot afford to waste.
We regress instead of progressing.
That's right. And we saw it happen when, we had something like the Grosley Human Resource Center, and the former parliamentary representative just determined, because it was not a project, it was not her brainchild, it was not a project that she started, she just abandoned it and to ignore it. And I think Grosley lost some years in terms of our advancement in the creative industries and in our development because of that. That we cannot afford. And so the petty, myopic political considerations have to take a back seat when we have a more global view that is taken, that is more in the interest of the advancement and progress of the community rather than political considerations. And so I'm mentioning all of those things, some of what has been done, some of what we are looking at in the near future to show you. It's not just strictly, solely infrastructure, but there are institutions, there are programs, things that are going to be put in place to ensure that our people benefit fully. I am proposing, and that has been long in coming, the development of the Grosley waterfront. I've presented already some renderings and so on as to what the concept or the idea is. We're going to develop our waterfront, and yes, it will be for entertainment, not only for local entertainment, but as a tourist attraction, because I believe, I know, Ricky, you will want to say that Sufra is the mecca of tourism. All the major tourism plans, yeah, you have attractions, but we have the major tourism plans in Grosley. I'm not satisfied that we get our fair share of the tourist dollar.
But you do, in all fairness, Grosley is, St. Lucia is naturally beautiful. Grosley has amazing potential because the Dauphin, a lot of historical sites, waterfalls, wildlife, so there's quite amazing potential that can be tapped into as well.
And we have every intention to exploit it. I use the word exploit in inverted commas in a positive way, to take advantage of it for our benefit. And so that is why I'm talking about the Grosley Waterfront Development Project. That's why I'm talking about the Dauphin Heritage Site project. All projects that will not only bring out the attractions that we have and the beauty and the ambience and hospitality that exists in Grosley, but also to bring economic possibilities to the people of the area. We are the population most affected by tourism in St. Lucia. By the same token, I think we should be those who benefit most from tourism. And that we have to ensure that we put things in place to, get a bigger share of the tourist dollar in Grosley. So when we establish those projects, it will not just be showpieces, it will be life-changing, developmental projects that will see an improvement in the quality of life and the standard of living of the people of the constituency of Grosley.
You're on to Constituency Vibes, 93.1 FM on Sky FM. We are on Flow 115 and live for Facebook and GDV. We are discussing ideas, plans, the forward movement of this country under this government, the visionary approach, and of course the kind of resilient leadership that is critical in this time of that crisis that we face, that is a dual approach in terms of the health aspect and the economic aspect. My guest tonight, the Honorable Leonard Spider Motut, the humble servant from Grosley, serving his people throughout the length and breadth of his extensive constituency, and we're talking about the many programs, projects, and policies that he has in place to tell you what is happening in Grosley. So the residents and the constituents of Grosley could be rest assured that in Spider-Man Tooth and the United Workers' Party, they have a visionary, forward-thinking, caring government and representative to take their interests and to advance the development of the constituency.
Talking about caring, Ricky, when you're showing caring, you have to care especially about our youth, our young population, and their future. Because some of us are a little advanced, there's not much more for us to see or do, but we have to think of the coming generation. I believe that we have to look back sometimes and take a page from those who came before us. And while our educational level has increased, there are more degrees around than before, I think the wisdom of the past can guide us very much, despite the education that exists currently, in making sound decisions. One of the things you would observe is that many people, though poor, owned land. That made a big difference. Many of us who today boast of having a degree, boast of having tertiary education, who have gone to university, it is not because our parents were rich. It is not because they had the wealth to be able to afford to send us to university, but it is because those people had the foresight to hold on to the land, okay, which is one of the most valuable assets you can have. In my case, I was able to mortgage the property that my parents had to put myself through school. Many of us today can speak of having an education because of that. What is happening slowly is that we are beginning to return to the status of tenants once again because we are beginning to lose our land. I want to know that our young people consider, in terms of the sound decisions, in terms of gaining assets, that they consider land acquisition. I want to encourage land acquisition among the young people of Grosley. And so I'm looking at the crown lands that exist in Grosley, property belonging to government in Grosley, some of which we already have people squatting on, but they do not have title to it. They cannot lay claim to it. I am engaging in a land rationalization program in the community of Labon, in the community of Deramo, in Grand Riviere, to ensure that those who are already occupying crown property gain title, and what is left, that it is equitably subdivided for the benefit, first and foremost, of the people in the community, and after, if there are still lands available to be taken up, the wider constituency. Because I'm not too busy trying to bring in more people into the constituency. We are talking about the population already, how populous the constituency is. I'm not busy what I'm trying to do is trying to ensure that those who are there, especially first-time landowners, especially youth, get an opportunity to own a piece of the constituency that they are from, that they can call their own, that they have title to, that they can use tomorrow as equity to get a mortgage, to secure a mortgage, to send their children to school, to put themselves through further education, or to gain further assets by leveraging that asset that they would have gotten. I think that in itself is one of the best things that a young person can take advantage of. I am providing you with that opportunity. I want you to capitalize on it. Of course, you will want your car, you will want all of those things, but all of these are depreciable assets. Okay, assets that depreciate, but when you invest in land, okay, that is an asset that grows in value continuously and that will always be valuable. And so, of course, you know that the most valuable lands you can find is in the north. Despite that, I am imploring my cabinet members to approve what I expect to come before cabinet as soon as Monday next week, to approve the low cost that we will be asking them to approve for you to be able to afford to own land in your constituency. That is another program that I'm very proud of. That is another program that I want to see my people take advantage of. If you care, what a caring government does is engage in such programs that will uplift, okay, advance, improve quality of life and standard of living of your constituents. And that is what I am busy doing right now, because let's face it, in the last 25 years, the St. Lucia Labour Party had the privilege of representing Gros Islet for 15 years. 15 years of which they were the official government, and not in opposition, in government. Say, let's take, for example, a community like Labon. What did they do for the community of Labon? I challenge anyone to cite one project, one program that was done for the benefit of the people of Labon in those 15 years. I mean, never mind, I know the only thing you'll mention to me is the fact that they closed an ICT center that was already established in my previous tenure, that had to come back and reopen, okay? Apart from that, whether good or bad was done for the people of Labon. A gentleman, deceased Peter Phillip, was the first UWP politician to represent Labon. He brought electricity to Labon. Subsequently, politician to represent Labon. He brought electricity to Labon. Subsequently, the Labour Party held that constituency, and nothing happened in Labon. When I became the parliamentary representative in 2006, that's when pipe-borne water, could you believe it? That is when pipe-borne water was brought to Labon. On my return, we realized that yes, in all our exuberance and excitement, we brought the water from Hill 20 in Babono across to central Labon and we went towards Dauphin. But the people in lower Labon approaching Labon were never connected. I mean, I heard the hue and cry for 5 years when I was in no position to do anything about it. Upon my return, that is the reason why I was brought back. I recognized that, and I told the people of Labon that if I was brought back, I would attend to those deficiencies, and I want to say, I'm proud to say, that that has provided the facility of pipe-borne water to the people of Lower Labon. Not only that, but a more reliable supply of water to the entire Labon by not just having the supply coming from Hill 20, but also having a supply coming from the Monjio, Moshi area. So Labon is better served now in terms of pipe-borne water, better served than most communities now. And I'm proud to say that. In addition to that, you had some of the most deplorable roads in the community of Labon. We have already begun road improvement works in Labon, and I'm pleased to say that very soon from now, when the paving is done of the main Labon road from central Labon going towards Dauphin, we're not going to reach all the way as yet, but it's going to go past where you have residents. That will provide a major improvement and open up the lands in the Labon area. Not to mention, let me give you a heads up, people of Labon, the lands that you will be getting from the Crown now at a pittance, untold value for those lands. I just given you a hint. And so that is what development is about. That is what life-changing decisions on the part of your representative is about. Not people who give you lip service, promise you, make promises. And the promise, I remember, was better days. They promised to do better. And I keep reminding the people of Gros Islet, they will agree that I did well in my first term in terms of delivering on the promises that were made on the projects that were, and programs that were promised, but they will promise something better. Who does not want betterment? Who does not aspire for better? So on that promise, I was replaced by a Labour Party candidate who was dismal in terms of delivery on the promises that she was made. And that is why last campaign, I adopted the approach, and I'm continuing to do so now, to say to the people of Gros Islet, do not base your decision on shall. Do not base your decision on promises. They have had many more years than any UWP candidate. There are more SLP representatives who have represented Gros Islet over the years than there are UWPs. Okay? UWP has represented Gros Islet only for the third term with my emergence now. I did it in 2006, 2011, 2016 to now, and Peter Phillip 82 to 87. 3 terms. And in those 3 terms, you can see the tangible evidence of work done.
That's interesting history. I think a lot of people don't
It is. You have to make the comparison.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, you can promise me the world, Ricky. Is the world yours to give? So I'm not going by your promises. Show me what you have delivered, and I will base my decision as to whether or not I'll give you a chance on what I know you can deliver. Because we're not going to be fooled anymore. So based on what you know, I can and have delivered, you can trust me to continue delivering and doing the work that is to be done in the constituency of Grosley. So I bring to you now, not just the achievement, record of achievement, I bring to you a vision for the continued development and progress of Grosley. And I just want you to know, having achieved what I have achieved, what I gained in the process is experience. Experience of how to get it done more efficiently, and so you can expect even more in the coming term, in the future, when you return me as your parliamentary representative. Now is not a time to gamble. Now is not a time to experiment. We are in crucial times now. In crucial times, you need steady, reliable hands. I will provide that for you, as I have demonstrated to you. It's not a game. I mean, just ask yourself, what is it? What is the alternative that has been presented? I listen carefully. I don't just dismiss opponents. And by the way, let me just say, don't expect me to bash any individual on any personal level, because anyone who offers his or herself to serve, I think that's commendable, and that should be encouraged. But when you offer yourself to serve, it is a decision that you have made, a consideration that you have made, that you want to make a difference, you want to do something. So you come with a plan, obviously. I have listened. And the best thing I've heard from my opponents so far is that there is a youth economy. What is the youth economy? No one has been able to tell you. What I spoke of in terms of benefiting the youth, they can embrace that, and if they want to talk of a youth economy, non-rationalization where the youth will benefit, an HRDC where the youth have access to a music studio, a theater, a training room, you know.
You have redefined the youth economy.
Exactly. The Grosley waterfront development, the Dauphin heritage site, these are opportunities for youth, if you want to talk about the youth economy. But then what is the youth economy? The best offer that I've heard from the opposition so far is that they're going to revive Aqua Action. I mean, come on. Come with something more innovative, something new, something fresh, something different. Aqua Action was a failure. That's why it was abandoned. Okay, and the next best thing, I thought, if only, well, it didn't offer any economical prospects, it was at least in terms of entertainment value, there was some of that in it. That he will begin sandcastle competition on the beaches of Grosley. I thought about it, I say, really? Is this a joke? Sandcastle? So that economic plan is as good as the next wave hitting the shore. You know?
Indeed.
Ask any child, you build a sandcastle, a swell comes from the sea and it's gone.
It's gone.
I mean, that is the vision that you have for the future. I mean, so we know that there's nothing to offer on the other side. Let's stay with what we know. We have seen evidence of the progress. You know the plans. And when we talk of providing you with work, we actually deliver. This is the party of workers. We have worked. We will continue to work. We are willing to work. And that is why. That is because we care. We care about your well-being. We care about your quality of life. We care about your standard of living. We care about the advancement and development of our country for future generations. And so I present myself once again to the constituency of Grosley as the best alternative based on performance, based on accomplishments, based on my achievements, and based on the experience I have garnered in the process. And that put alongside the vision that I'm presenting you for the future and continued development of Grosley, you know the choice is clear.
Listeners, you're on to Constituency Vibes, and we open our lines for 560931, where you could take your calls and so forth. My guest tonight...
Ricky, some people are asking me whether you have a link, because those who cannot get us through television...
I sent you that link as well.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, well, let me see.
I sent it to Babs.
Okay, well, all right.
Let me send you that as well. It's on 115 GDV TV. You can go to Great Visions Design GDV on Facebook as well, and you can get that. Good night, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Good night, Ricky. How you doing? Good program. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you very much, sir.
What I want my rep to tell the people, especially the labor rights, how Boseju became, and the amount of work, if he remembers, that we have done to to get Boseju where it is there now, with the playing field and with everything surrounding it. And the Grizzly market, that was remarkable. Tell people about that. These are things you do, Spider. These are things you work towards. Let people know what you did, my friend.
Yes, Scholar, I must say, I'm trying to highlight some of the things that I do. Some of it, I mean, it's too numerous to mention, Scholar. Ricky will have to bring me back here a few times if I have to do justice to the work that I've done. But I'm happy that you mentioned a few important ones, you know, like the market.
Look at your community center. They left it standing there, take rain, sun, everything. And look at what you have to do when you come back. Huh?
Well,
I want you to highlight those things.
Okay, definitely. I must say it was remiss of me.
Especially, I don't think you talk enough about the lab-on water. You get enough pressure for that already. Even I give you pressure for the lab-on water.
Yes, but I always say, sometimes, you know, my people become impatient, but I say to them, I don't make you a promise that I don't deliver on. For that matter, I don't make promises, I make commitments. And so if I make a commitment, you know I will deliver. And talking about water projects, if you remember in my campaign, I said, I want the issue of pipe-borne water not to be a point of discussion in the next campaign. But you know what? There was this situation in Vieux-Iqui, where most of Vieux-Iqui did not have pipe-borne water. Currently, Caller, we are just completing a water project in Vieux-Iqui, where the majority of the people in Vieux-Iqui who do not have water will now have a reliable source. We have a pump below the hill in Lafayette, Abamago.
I understand they didn't have electricity to it.
That's right. And so we are pumping the water up. There's a water tank up there, and so it will be distributed.
Very good.
Not only will many more people get a supply, but those who already had a supply, the few who already have a supply, will have a more reliable and better supply. And that comes also with the improvement of the roads, because your representative was smart enough to tie in the road rehabilitation with the project. And so we have, we had CDB finance the project. It's 2-point-something billion. They gave $1 million. And the Ministry of Infrastructure signed a document saying that on completion, because we have to dig the road to put the pipes, on completion, they will fix the roads which are already needed fixing in the first place. And that I, as parliamentary representative, would put some $355,000 from my constituency development funds to complete the project, like to buy the water tank and things like that, to help with the pump and so on. That project, I am pleased to say, is almost completed. So by the time my term is over, I would have delivered on my promise to the people of Vieux-Iqui that they have their water project. So
hey, your term ain't getting to be over, man. You just start. Give the people a story about the Boseju playing field, Sammy Grounds. I want to hear that story, my friend.
All right. Well, the Darren Sammy Grounds, as you know, it was named as Darren Sammy Grounds during my tenure as Minister of Sports. But I want to give credit where credit is due. I think it was visionary to, set up the Boseju cricket ground. It was an asset for St. Lucia. I don't think we have fully maximized on it. But I want to give the former parliamentary representative, the Honorable Mario Michel, or Justice Michel, he is now, the credit for it. And I remember listening to him very carefully. As you know, he was an opponent of mine in the 2001 campaign. I listened to them. And I will not sit here and say that if you have an idea that is good because you're my opponent, that I shouldn't embrace it. And so he had an idea, I thought that was good. He said, I remember that he said that we want to develop a sporting complex in Boseju. And the argument behind it was that you already have car park, you already have free-phase current, you already have some facilities available. Now, there will not be a World Cup football match and a World Cup cricket match at the same time. So most of the time, the car park will be empty. So if you have a football game, a big football game, you have the car park already. If you have a big cricket game, you have the car park already. And that is why I decided to buy into that concept and to continue that idea, because I thought it was a good idea. During my tenure as Minister of Sports, you saw I developed the National Tennis Center in that same area. And I had earmarked a piece of land and transferred it to the Swimming Association for a pool to be built. I understand some exorbitant amount was spent in the last term on clearing the land and nothing else was done. Now, I must confess, we have not done that as yet, but it is in the works, it's in the making. Because this government embarked on a massive sporting infrastructural project. When we meet in cabinet, you have to understand there are 17 constituencies and everyone is making a claim and a case for theirs. Don't think I'm not making a claim and a case. But when it came to sporting facilities, we were a little better off than many, like Soufrière, Dennery, Micoud, and those areas. So the plan was, okay, let's go with first phase with those areas, but the next phase, Grosley has to get what's due to it, and that includes an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And so not just that, but that is one of the things that will be included. So I say to my people, let us ensure that we continue the development and the progress. Do not interrupt our development. Do not interrupt our progress. Let the work continue. Bring us back, and you will see that. And so I'm pleased to say that my government has bought into the whole idea of the complex. We are looking at a gym. We are looking at even a football facility there.
And thank you very much, caller, for your call.
The last thing before I go, Mr. Minister, you have to get more police surveillance in Bosseju these days.
Yes.
It's getting very dangerous.
Yes, unfortunately, we do.
Okay.
We do. And let me just say, talking about policing.
I'll listen to you off air.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night. One of the things I want to mention is the fact that going forward, there's plans for a new police station at Grosley, and that police station would be built, designed for purpose. So hopefully we'll be able to accommodate more police officers there. I've also recommended that the courthouse be housed in that building, and along with the police station, there will also be a new civic center. Civic center meaning a headquarters, a center where you can find most, if not all, government services. So your mayor, your parliamentary rep, your social transformation officer, your sports officer, your welfare officer, your education officer, all of those people will be housed in that building. Your youth and sports council, all of them would have the offices there. Okay, so hopefully you can go there, a sub-collector, you can go there and do your transactions when it comes to government services. And that is another thing that is in the works, that is in the making. And I don't talk too much about it because, you see, I believe in tangibles. But I can mention it now because plans are already being designed, have been brought in by the architect and the potential contractors to give my views as to what they have designed and what it is that we want and so on. And I'm very pleased that, having established that will, serve the constituency well and decentralize government services to a great extent and make life better for the people of Grosley. That is because we care. We don't want to put you through all this traffic. And of course, that's a way of minimizing the congestion on the highways. So let's not forget that. And with all the road development that I'm doing, there are some bypass roads that are being developed. And with the development of those bypass roads, you're taking many people off the main highway. Despite the fact that the main highway has been improved, you're taking people off the main highway. So commuting will be less nightmarish, far more, easily facilitated, and that the time that is being wasted will be a thing of the past.
Good night, callers. Once again, we are on to Constituency Vibes on 93.1 FM, Sky FM. We're on Flow 115, channel 115, and on Facebook for GDV TV as well. And so this is your program, the program of the people, the program where we inform you, we highlight, we explain to you what is happening at the various constituency levels. Tonight our focus is on Grosley in the north, and of course you have our guest, the Honorable Spider Leonard Motut, Member for Parliament for Grosley and Minister for Equity, Social Justice as well. And so we are discussing and sharing with you what is happening. We want you to focus on what is happening. Do not listen to the naysayers. Do not listen to the preachers of doom and gloom. You have a government that is working, forward thinking in your interest. Good night, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm calling in regards to the show Constituency Vibes, right?
Yes.
Am I live?
Yes, you are. Welcome, caller.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Minister, for addressing some of the situations that we are facing right now, especially in our constituency. All right. I personally came to the office in regards to persons who are taking care of Bosseju Phase 1 and Phase 2. In regards to Bosiju Phase 2, we were asking for a bus shelter for the past couple of years. And the situation is when it's the rainy season, it's really difficult for persons who live around in the area for them to get shelter from the rain and especially from the sun also. It is become a nuisance to certain persons who are living in the area of Bosiju Phase 2 because sometimes there are 3, 4, 5 persons sheltering from the sun or from the rain under the balconies of some of the residents. And they are peace right now because persons try to run over to their place and try to shelter from the rain. Mr. Minister, what are the plans for Bosiju Phase 2 and Phase 1 in regards to getting something simple as a bus shelter for us to protect us from something simple as the sun, the rays of the sun? What are the plans for Bosiju Phase 1 and Phase 2 for that?
Okay.
For the second step, we personally came to the office in regards to keeping Bosiju Phase 1 and Phase 2 as safe as possible. Meaning, for the amount of bush that we have in Bosiju, it's unbelievable, right? Persons came in to do a cleanup in Bosiju, and they only clean the main road, right? But they're forgetting that there is a community and persons living in Bosiju Phase 2 up. All right? So what I want to happen, or I want you to work on for me, is you and the representatives of the office, if you guys can come and see the situation of Bosiju, it's unbelievable, right? We had 2 murders in less than 2 months in Bosiju, and not one person has come to Bosiju to see the situation of the place. Persons are hiding. Persons are loitering around Bosiju, and we don't know what to do. There is neighborhood watch, but the neighbors are not looking for each other. So if you can get someone to take care of that situation, we'll greatly appreciate it. We don't want anything else in Bosiju, but the safety of the people is very important, especially the elderly. There's a lot of elderly persons living there. The lighting is not too bright for these persons also. Mr. Minister, I have come to the office every single year, about twice in the year, to have that situation dealt with.
Okay, so if you allow me to respond to you, I will deal first with the issue of the bus shelters. Now, I must say that during this term of my tenure, I have hardly dealt with bus shelters, contrary to the previous term when I was in office, where I did quite a number of bus shelters. But I recognize and appreciate the need for bus shelters. I mean, those who commute via public transport, like you said, are exposed to the elements, the rain and the sun, and I think it is a justifiable need, not just in Bosiju. Of course, you're concerned about Bosiju. You're a resident of Bosiju. I'm the parliamentary representative for the whole of Grizzly. I know there's that need in Bosiju. There is in certain parts of Morshi, and there are other areas too. I just want you to know, since you're specifically concerned about Bosiju, that I am hoping, and let me just say, not an excuse, but let me just say, a lot of my resources, first of all, the first year I didn't get my community development funds because that was already spent before we got into office. And so when we got in, we were just paying bills, and so we didn't get funds for that year. In subsequent years, I did certain things with the funds, including, I mean, given the difficulty of COVID and so on, it did not help, but I have committed some of my funds to the water project in Viesikwi, which was exorbitant, $355,000. I've committed over $100,000 for the furniture for the Morshi Early Childhood Center. I had to commit over $100,000 to the music lab because what was done for the soundproofing was substandard. So when the expert came in, he said, well, it's not of the highest standard. I want to give my people the best. And so we had to redo it, and so I had to find. So that's almost $1 million, well, close to $1 million if you look at it, that I had to spend in those things, and which cut into my ability to address those things. But let me just say to you, that is not an excuse, just an explanation. I am not the one, the kind of representative that will just fall and die and tell you, well, that is the case and that is it. I can tell you now that I've had discussions with who, of course, has come into our people. I would like his assistance, his cooperation to help me in establishing accented to it. And so we are working on that. And so very soon, let me just say, before the end of this, although I'm not the one determining the date for election, but I dare say before the end of the term, we would address that situation. I am also looking at other successful business people in the community who have benefited from doing business in the community to assist. And I understand that.
Without cutting you short, before the COVID actually hit us, we had probably over 40 or 50 students living in Bossage Phase 2. Why? Because it's very convenient for them to get to school, to the medical school, and also it's very convenient for them because of the area itself is very safe and very sound. You know, so that's just a little situation. If any of your representatives can come in the morning before that time, you would have seen the amount of persons who were waiting for a bus on a morning, and
yes,
shelter on a morning. But I appreciate the fact that you're trying your best in order for us to get these services as quickly as possible. But I'm just letting you know we need it really, really quick, especially the lighting in Phase 2, especially
yes,
as that crime just happened recently. People are shocked. People are afraid. As I told you, there's a lot of elderly persons living there, retired persons living there.
yeah,
So they have never seen such violence in a short space of time. So we need someone to come in, as you said, to check on the people, to come see for yourself on the conditions of the place. For example, I've come home and I've seen movements in the place that are not normal, you know. But what can I do if there's no proper lighting so I can identify, you know, okay, well, that's the person who did it, or that's the person who was there. So we need that. We need that really, really bad. And I appreciate the fact that you're going to move forward and try to see how you can make that problem go away.
yes. Okay, let me just say on the issue of security, I recognize, you know, you made a few valid points that has to be addressed. Let me just say, again, not as an excuse, but for the last couple of years, I've been making requests for street lighting because I know that itself lends itself to some form of security. But we had, the government had put on hold the street lighting program because it was determined that they would change to LED lighting, and that took far longer than I anticipated. But I'm pleased to say that the LED lighting program has begun. Each constituency was allocated some 50 lights. I have gotten my 50 lights now. Unfortunately for me, when I distribute, that is disposed throughout the constituency, that is like nothing. Bossage should probably get 3 or 4. There are some lights that have been installed already. But I'm pleased to tell you that I make the case as your representative to indicate that it is not just to us, it is injustice rather to us to give equal shares when we have such a large constituency, such a developed constituency, such a populous constituency, that we should have equitable shares. So I'm pleased to tell you, I have been promised an additional 80 lights in the area, out of which Bossage will certainly be well, I dare say adequately taken into consideration to improve the number of lights there. And let me just say to you, I just got some notes from my constituency office here, which says we got 51 lights and not 50. And out of the 51 lights we got, Bossage benefited 33% of it. And that is, and let me just say to you, that is not preference to Bossage because I'm not talking to you alone, I'm talking to the rest of my constituency. It's not out of preference because it was out of need. And I must say, you have a very strong community association who makes representation, and you have just indicated how many times you have been to my constituency office. So it's not like I am not aware, and that is why you got 33%. Out of the 80%, you will get some more, because I know there are still some areas that has not been dealt with, and so we will deal with that as far as security is concerned. Let me just say, the bushing, that is a headache for me. And I will say, even when I try to help some of the unemployed, underemployed people, and so on, they don't do the best job. And I must say the supervision is not the best either. But to solve this, to bring an end to that, we are looking at strengthening the constituency councils who will take direct responsibility of matters such as these. Because my constituency office does not have the capacity to adequately deal with that throughout the entire constituency. I am proposing for that matter, knowing that even the council will not be adequately equipped to deal with it, I'm proposing that we have 3 constituency councils in keeping with the proposal that the constituency be cut into 3, as was proposed by the previous administration, which I support, by the way.
I support that also.
And so, ahead of that, because we're going into an election now, you can't come with that right now. That will look like gerrymandering or whatever it is. But I'm hoping that irrespective who forms the next government, and I'm hoping it's the United Workers' Party, that whichever government will seriously move toward cutting the constituency into 3, Grosley North, Grosley Central, Grosley South, because Grosley is under-resourced and placed at a big disadvantage existing as it is right now. I think our people are shortchanged. But I'm going to be putting in place, as Minister of Local Government, ahead of that development, the establishment of 3 constituency councils that will serve. Eventually, they become constituencies, they will have already had the councils. But with doing so, it means that the communities will be better served because the council will have a smaller jurisdiction to oversee. And because this is what I do, try to vision, try to plan ahead, try to find solutions. Okay. Now on the area of crime itself. And by the way, before I move on, let me just say, we can assist ourselves too at the community level. I know Boss Issue does it. I help in with the cleanup of our areas.
Yeah, they do the cleanup.
I know.
They only do the cleanup in the main road. They don't come up to Lakeside View. They don't come up to Darren Sammy Drive. They don't go to the other on the other side.
Okay, and we will have to address that. Road. Yes. Okay, because like I always say, then my constituents pay the most taxes. People pay taxes for services. I want to ensure that you get the services that you deserve. That you yes.
They are actually begging for that service.
And on the
so many lots in Boss Issue that don't have they have owners, but they don't come to take care of the lots.
Yeah.
And these lots are breeding areas for animals.
Well, a solution to that is part of our proposal for the reform of local government. The constituency councils will have jurisdiction to write to the owners, asking them to clear the lots. If they don't, the council will do it and build them.
Mr. Minister, we have done that on many occasions to get the persons who own the land.
Yeah, but there's no penalty. But there's no penalty to it. But if you know that we are cutting it, and every time we cut it, we bill you, you don't pay it, of course. If you surely don't, government will seize the land. That is a simple solution. Sometimes you have to force people to do what is right. But let me just say, still on the issue of security, while we're talking about establishment of a Grosley police station, this is a massive constituency with many communities. So I'm proposing, and I've spoken to the Commissioner of Police, Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Milton Daisy, who is in full agreement with me, that we set up mobile unit. For example, if Boss Issue becomes a hotspot for crime, they move into that area, they station the mobile unit there. So there's a police presence, and they are immediately in the area. So that mobile unit will be used for such cases. It will be an itinerant station in the area when there becomes a hotspot, or if there becomes a hotspot. Also for major events, as you know, most major events are held in the north, whether it's like Darren Sammy Stadium, Pigeon Point, what have you. That again, we're going to have the services of that. I think it's worthwhile. I think it makes sense, and that is one of the things we're looking at going forward. So thank you for the question. Give me an opportunity to bring out some of the plans and the future. And I want to say to you, sir, that just be a little patient. Those issues that are relevant, significant issues will be addressed. And your lighting, almost immediately, because I know that the LED lights are on island right now. Some have been installed. You've gotten 33% of the 51. And very soon, out of the 80%, we will determine how many more you're going to get.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Golan.
Thank you so much for giving me a listening ear. I hope everything happens as planned, and I'm looking forward to see some development in the area, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Yes, thank you.
Good night, callers. You're on to Constituency Vibes. And we are on 93.1 FM. Flow 115 and GDV TV through Facebook as well. This is your program. Welcome to Constituency Vibes, caller.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening, caller.
Mr. Minister, let's find that you all do an excellent job, a job of excellence. I think you are the hardest working cabinet in the history of St. Lucia. And I can see the change. Excellent, beautiful job you all are doing. But I'm concerned about one thing, a couple of things, a lot of things. You have an MP, a member of parliament, Ernest Hilaire. I went to Dominica and put our country name in the mud. And he's still in parliament. And what he said, as far as I know, I think that's treason. I think that's treason. Am I right in saying that, or I'm wrong?
Well, I think that was very unfortunate, at the altar of political expedience for you to throw your country and your countrymen, under the bus and tarnish reputation and our image in such a manner. And that's the problem I find with our politics, that we should desist from, going so low in terms of trying to gain political mileage. I think, come with plans, come with ideas, come with a vision, and let people, let ideas and views contend and let people make a member of parliament should reflect on that statement that he made. And I think he still owes St. Lucians an apology for that. I do not know how many St. Lucians will forgive him for it, but I think he still owes St. Lucians an apology. And these are the things that we should discourage. And the way you can discourage it is by punishing politicians who engage in such behavior, who make such comments, who descend to such a low level of politics. That does not belong in our mainstream. Let's get rid of that. And if he is the culprit that will attempt to bring that into the mainstream, then he would have to be set aside, cast away to give room for a better, more visionary approach to politics.
I will go a little further, sir. There is the state minister, Minister, a lawmaker. His vehicle has been taken from him, the customs. And then he has the audacity. I've not given no, haven't asked for the resignation of this guy. I have a problem with that, man.
Well,
I have a big problem with that.
Well, caller,
y'all afraid, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Are y'all afraid of the SLP?
I'm not afraid.
Are y'all afraid of the SLP?
Well, certainly.
This guy should not be on the ballot. As a matter of fact, the SLP period should not be on the ballot sheet. Because they have been asking for a long while now, any solution, the professors, the doctors, the teachers, you name them who they are, the gurus, give me one good reason why they are on the ballot sheet. And I haven't got an answer to this day. But when it comes back to Dr. Hilaire, why is this man on the ballot sheet? Why is this man still a member of parliament? That's what I'm asking, sir. And listen to you up here.
Okay.
Thank you, caller.
Let me just say that, well, there are certain qualifications that will determine whether or not you can be a contestant in the elections. If you're not bankrupt, if you don't have a criminal record, things like that. And to the best of my knowledge, he does not, fall in those categories. What I will say on the issue of the vehicle, I will say to you, sir, that I will not comment on it. It is a matter before the courts. We have to respect our judicial system and let the judicial system, go through its course. And I don't want for certain to be accused of interference in any form or fashion. So that I will not comment on. The matter is before the courts will deal with it. On the issue of whether...
Just hold a minute, caller. Let the minister.
On the issue of whether he should be on the ballot paper or not, well, he has a right to be on the ballot paper, but the voters will decide whether or not he goes any further than that.
Welcome to Constituency Vibes. Good night, caller.
Good night, Mr. Alexander. Good night, Mr. Minister.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Mr. Alexander, I just want to say that this minister is a minister who has, who's the best kind of individual you could have gotten for such a diverse constituency of persons. And it's such a huge constituency. And you know something? I have known this minister from the moment he stepped into the political arena and decided that he was going to run for the United Workers' Party. And he did that and on the advice and the wholehearted support of Sir John. And I remember Sir John making a statement about the humility of this young man and how he felt that this was going to be the best individual because he was a son of the soil and because of his humble beginnings. And yet he had such a wonderful kind of personality that he would be able to mesh between the haves and those who are trying to have. And he would be able to marry that difference, and he has done it brilliantly. He has a heart for people. He loves his people. He's committed to that constituency. I think he's just proud of that constituency, that he has been given the opportunity. And when you have somebody whose heart is in a place, who's not about himself, to make himself big up. That's why you see he's still stuck in Gosley Town. This man, for people not to see that this man has his heart, yes, I'm hearing him saying he wants a constituency, and I support that because it has grown. People have migrated from everywhere to the north because this is the hub, the heartbeat, the economic and social heartbeat of St. Lucia. But this young man stood up in that constituency and worked for the people. He is a man of the people. Will be able to move you from Grizzly again because the people from Grizzly on both sides of the track understand that you are a man who is there to serve the people, that you care about the people. They've seen that you're not there about yourself. They've seen that you've stayed among them. And although you're a minister, you can still be with the people on the ground and understand their pain and look out for them. No matter, yes, it is big. People say, oh, you know, you're quiet. Yes, you're quiet, but you're a worker, and it is your performance that shows with such a huge constituency, with such limited resources, and yet you have been there trying to plug a hole, drop a piece of bread everywhere, so that everybody can get a bit of something. Minister, I am very proud of you. I endorse you. I support you, and I am telling you, the majority of that constituency supports you. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night. Thank you very much for your endorsement, caller. And let me just say that for me, I recognize the diversity of my constituency and I realize the needs of all constituents, irrespective of their station. And so what I try to do is not to deprive any of anything, but for those who have to continue to thrive, and for those who don't have to get an equal opportunity to develop themselves based on their willingness to work. And so I believe in wealth distribution, and that is why we are creating opportunities in Dauphin, in the Grosley town, and in other areas that are less affluent than some of the communities in my constituency, so that everyone can have the opportunity to grow and to progress.
Good night, welcome to Constituency Vibe, caller.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening, Ricky. Spider, good evening.
Yes,
Good evening, sir.
Okay. Spider, just a while back, that TV, I don't know what was wrong with it, but it was giving some serious issues. It wasn't anything, it wasn't seeing anything. So it happened that I switched to another program with Joachim Henry. Okay? And what I want to ask you, the $40 million for the playing field, Spider. How many playing fields? Because they compare the Beauséjour with the playing fields that I'm building around the island presently. And they say, well, they did not say one playing field, but they say 40 million, the Beauséjour costs 40 million, and we have a playing field in Soufrière costing 40 million. So I want to know how many playing fields that Lockerbie is building for the 40 million, and then I'll come to my second question when you answer that one.
Okay. Well, let me just say to you, first and foremost, to make a comparison between a facility that was built 20 years ago to a facility that's built now, that's flawed. Secondly, the Soufriere playing field does not cost $30 million. For that matter, the $30 million will give you the Soufriere mini stadium, it will give you a facility in Micoud South, Micoud North, Dennery, and I think there's one other area.
Sports Academy.
The Sports Academy in my constituency. I didn't want to mention it because I always say to them I have not gotten anything this term because I'm looking for big things next term. But the Sports Academy in Rosalie. These are all the facilities we're talking about for $30 million. So if the person made that comparison, they chose the wrong comparison to make. It's just exposing that if the person is serious about it, and I don't think the Boss Issue Stadium costs $30 million anyway, but if that's the case they're making, that's a bad case to make. And so that is my answer to your question.
Are you there? Are you there?
Okay, secondly, Spider. Okay, Spider, I can recall that I'm the leader of the opposition, okay, and his members move a motion for the Prime Minister to a vote of no confidence to remove the Prime Minister. I can recall at one time in a restaurant there was an incident and you raised your voice and the same opposition was asking for your resignation, and also Mr. Raymond and then Mr. Henry. Okay, and then you all did not commit no offense, you all did not did anything wrong, and they were calling for you all to resign from the government. But right now, I want to know that as the member for Catherine South now has tarnished the reputation of St. Lucia first, and second the government. Because he said what happened in Dominica was planned in St. Lucia. And afterwards he said then they will vote out the government of St. Lucia, which is the UWP. Now, I do not know the standing orders of the House. I just asked the question there for inquiring mind, Spider. Can the Prime Minister and his cabinet move a no confidence motion against the member for Catherine South that if we do not come with evidence of what he said in Dominica on the platform, that he should not take part in any sitting in the House until that he come with the evidence?
Well, what I know the standing
Listen, Scholar, will you listen off air?
Yeah, I will listen off air.
Thank you very much, Scholar.
Yeah, what I know that the standing orders provide for is if the statement was made in the House, he would be, it would be demanded of him by the Speaker, especially if one member rose on a point of order, that he provide evidence. But in this case here, since the statement was not made in the House, I do not know whether the House has any jurisdiction to require of him, evidence of the statement that he makes and to take any punitive action against him. So that is the situation. But you see, I'm calling about people's resignation and so on, just exposes the hypocrisy of the opposition, okay? Because people like the current leader of the opposition was a part of the St. Lucia Labour Party when the Honorable Julian Hunt, in an official ceremony, which I was present as the Youth and Sports Officer, chairing the proceedings, where he had an outburst, in an official setting, and they defended him by saying he was standing up for rights. You understand what I'm saying? Well, I was in a social setting, okay, and I stood up for my rights. Simple as that and straight as that. And I have never professed, I've never claimed to be pious, to be holier than thou. I am human like everybody else, and I come to you bare, plain, open, transparent, for you to see me as I am for who I am. Right now, those who call for resignation and so on, that's something of the opposition. That's passé, that's tired, that's, something that is like, almost like redundant. And so it is not for me to call for anybody's resignation. I think it's for you, the electorate, to determine who you're going to resign. Very soon from now, you'll have an opportunity to determine who is going to be who's going to be relegated and forced to resign. And so it is in your hands if you think that they have committed any atrocities, any offenses, or have fallen short in any way, and that you're not satisfied, to make a statement to them and let them know where you stand on the issues. And that is as far as I will go, because you don't hear me calling for people's resignation as such and so on, because the very people who defended open dishonesty by public officials, claiming to be what they are not, you know, they will defend others having their outbursts when it arises and try to justify, will come with other things. Now, I will say something else. You know, there was this incident where a worker on my farm was accused of kidnapping and assault and so on. And the St. Lucia Labour Party operatives, including the current candidate for Grosley, sought to try to tie me into it and accuse me of knowing better and knowing differently, because they heard the first statement that was made by the accuser, where he indicated that I called the guys, and when I heard that what was taking place, and asked the guys to let him go to his home and so on. And he indicated also that the police officer called. What he did not say was that I called the police officer, brought it to the police officer's attention, and the police officer called. And he said to himself he was relieved. He said publicly that he was relieved because that is what he felt caused the guys not to do was to him. Subsequently, when he was approached by Labour Party operatives, he had a different story, and they latched onto it and tried to tie it to me and so on. But that didn't go anywhere, obviously, because, you see, we're in a small society. People know people. People know what people are capable of, and so it didn't go anywhere. But I was very surprised to see that as a newcomer, the current candidate for Grosley sought to latch onto it and try to make of it. He realized, of course, that it wasn't going anywhere, but he has since let go. I just want to say I don't engage in that kind of politics. Because, you see, there are those who have called me and send me videos and other things accusing my opponent of not supporting his child, of not taking care of his mother, of treating his girlfriend and so on. And my reaction to it is, please do not send me such information. I don't engage in such kind of politics. You're not going to hear such rhetoric from me. I'm going to criticize my opponent on his plans, okay, on the vision that he has for Grosley, show where mine is better, and, you know, and seek to appeal to the voters, the voting population of Grosley, that I have a better vision, I have a better plan, and I, based on my experience and my record of performance, that I'm the better candidate. That is what my politics is about.
Good night, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, good night, Ricky. And good night to the Honorable Spider Montu.
Yes, good night.
Good night, caller.
Yes, Spider, I could agree and disagree with you on the resignation of Ernest Hiller. Politics is politics. If you look at when Richard at the time brought in a vehicle, they take him to task. The other one on Richard was revoking of the visa. Okay? You had a false doctor. We asked for his resignation. It took time before he could resign. Okay? Look at the Ubaltus Raymond issue. Those Labour Party guys went after the guy. And if you look at the world today, in Westminster politics, in the U.S., the senators, by just making refer, they call in for your head. What the guy did, being in opposition, going to Dominica, come on, you don't go and see these things over there. You're giving St. Lucians a bad name. We are the electorate, okay? 2, if we call in for your head because we does not like it, we want to keep the politics clean. I agree with you for not commenting on his case. But we, the voters, he's not fit for office right now. You know? Do not say the guy has the ticket, that is his prerogative, you know, to be on the ballot. He's not bigger than the electorate. You look at the American politics, any little thing. Look at they trying to accuse Andrew Cuomo. Our politics, the world has to know we are a small nation, 238 square miles with a population of 80,000. We can stand for that. Look at Antigua. Ministers were in wrongdoing. They call for the resignation. The U.S. sometimes does get involved in that. Let's keep the politics clean. Ernest Healy should resign, and he has to up. And I agree with you. Revolution people, we elect and we take out. This is all what I have to say. Good night and keep up good work.
Okay, caller, I respect your point.
Good night, caller. Thank you.
But let me just say that, I mean, the point I'm making is that at the end of the day, the electorate hand to determine what course of action they can take with, as far as the political future of the individual is concerned. Like I say, I condemn this. I think a leader should not stoop so low to seek to denigrate his own nation and his people for the sake of gaining political mileage. And on the issue of the hypocrisy and so on, let me just say this. I do not believe the politicians who think they are an option do all in your interest and in your favor to advance your cause and to continue the progress and development of this country.
Callers, we are on to constituency vibes, and of course we are at the moment of wrapping up, and of course that's contributing to improving your life in that regard. Minister, we had wrap-up time. Indeed, how time.
Enjoyed being on your program. The Progress Party as a party, and a better representation lies with